So the name, Juho Vepsa, and the funny thing is I come to Ukraine and people think I'm a local. So someone speaks to me and they speak something to me and I'm like, da. It's like, I don't get it. But it's like, I think I look like a Ukrainian because I have these 3 stripes. I have a chili corn t-shirt, I have a hat, I have expensive leather shoes. So I look like an Ukrainian. But today I'm going to discuss something about like websites because it's web conference, I think. So what was it like in 1995? Does anyone like Star Trek, by the way? Yeah, I got the team right. So someone likes Star Trek, right? So 1995, it was like very important year in Finland. 2 things happened. First thing, we got internet. We got internet in school, so you could go to this thing called web. And I think it was the year when I made my first website. Second thing that happened is that we won ice hockey world championships, and the whole country went totally crazy because it was the first time we won something. So, you know. Anyway, how did we do this in 1995? How did we develop websites? Well, you write some HTML, something happens, you make money. It was like that in 1995. I mean, not that difficult, right? To get started, of course, you need a site. You need to find a nice GIF, or GIF, I don't know how to say it, but you find GIF, all right, you find a GIF. I mean, it has to be like something unique. And when I was browsing the web on 1995, most of the pages were like this. So you go to a site that's under construction. And the funny thing is, I go to web right now, I cannot find it anymore. So every site is ready. Nothing is under construction anymore. All right, so then you make it black, because black is the only color that matters. And I like metal music, right? There was this series, Ally McBeal. It's great. It's on my homepage. I like exclamation mark. And, you know, remember Netscape and the other one. Yeah. I mean, this used to be on every site in 1995. Or, wait a minute, 98. Netscape came later. Whatever. But these days, I modernized the site. And actually, it's online, so we can check it out. Yeah, it's there. So, you see, it's not that hard to make websites. All right. So, what's missing from the site? It's not feature complete yet. I forgot to put visitor counter. Very important in 1995. I mean, this is one thing that just went away. At some point, every site had a visitor counter, not anymore. Then, WebRing, another thing that went away. So the point was that you got in the WebRing, and then some random site shows a link to your site, and you show links to random sites. Sounds very nice. And, or I mean, not enough GIFs, of course. It's like one GIF. I should have like 100. Margue, I mean this scrolling thing. I don't have a blink tag. I don't have CGI bin script to capture feedback. Maybe I want to get some clients so that they will be able to send me like some feedback or whatever. I don't host it on Gyoshi. This is very important in 1995. I don't use CSS yet because it was still kind of in specification stage. And I don't use JavaScript because it was like not invented yet. It was that year when Brendan figured it out in 2 weeks, but it was too early for JavaScript. And of course, Ajax. No Ajax yet. So the stack, it was HTML, right? You see, my stack is very heavy. And fast forward to this day. Like, it's like, like 20 years later, I feel old now because it's like, 20 years is a long time. So how do I do this in, this year? So, of course, I go to Twitter first. Then I try to find something on Twitter. I find the thing, I guess. I set up a project. I install the thing. I wait for a while. Something happens, I make money. So it's 20 years of evolution. After 20 years, we have this. And to give you some idea of what it's like these days, we had this conference in Finland, React Finland, very original name, of course, and about 300 people. So we had to make a site for it. So for this site, I used EJS and React for templates, so I can do the layouting and so on. But I could drop EJS if I wanted, of course. I used Webpack because I know something about Webpack. I used GraphQL. It was the first time when I used GraphQL on a big scale. The point was to separate content from the site. There is a good reason for this, which I explain in a little bit. I host the content on GitHub. I host the site on Netlify. And then I use my own site generator to tie it all together. And the nice thing is that I can pick a browser from 1995, and I think the site still kind of works, because there's nothing that really relies on JavaScript. Architecture-wise, there's a button somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, architecture-wise, I had to split it up, because you have to understand that the organizers, we are like, let's say, 6 active persons, and we are all developers. So there's one thing developers can do, is to develop things. They don't like to market things, they don't like to sell things, they like to develop things. So they started doing mobile app for the conference, and I started doing the site. And the point is that when you have this kind of situation, you have app, and you have a site, and you want to share the same content, how do you do this? Because if you couple the content with the site, then you have to couple the content with the app, and that's really bad. So for this reason, I pushed the content to a content repository. And to get access, there is GraphQL API in between. So that's something I get pretty much for free. And based on the API, I can generate the site, and the app can access the data. And the way this works is that if I manipulate the content, then it's going to publish a new NPM package. The API is going to recompile itself, and then it's going to tell the site, recompile yourself. So we get this nice little loop, or like this flow. I'll show you a little bit of the content because there's time. So because I'm lazy, I don't like to code too much. Yeah, got it. So here's my content. Like, let's find some speaker, like some people here, right? Yeah, the internet is, it's fast enough. So here's one of our speakers, Andre. Is in the audience, so that's why I'm showing this. So here's name, and here's some about. We tell something about, we link to image, with still like social data and so on. So we have like these cards, and then we have like, because people give like talks because it's a conference. So he was talking about linting, I guess. Yeah, something about linting and some description and so on. And we link to the speaker. And then we bind it together. So it's good to understand that I'm like using GitHub and JavaScript as a read-only database. And if I want to do manipulations, I go through GitHub user interface. Yeah, it's not that great. I mean, you don't have to clap. Anyway, the point is that I can aggregate the data here. You can check it out later and do something similar yourself. And you got some basic idea, but it needs some investigation to really get the approach. Then I have the GraphQL API. Let's hope this loads. Yeah, and here we go. It's the normal GraphQL user interface you get. And here I have some query. So I want all my speakers. From them, I want names, I want talks, I want workshops, I want images, I want this and that. Right? And then I get the data. And it maps the content API to this API. And then, on the site, let's say, I'll show the site itself. And let's say I have a schedule page. So it's like what happened and when and so on. And it's pages, it's schedule. So I don't need much for schedule page, but I map the data to React, and then I go with that. I think maybe it's more useful to show the speakers page. So I have, let's say, speakers. So there's some name, there's some description, some links, some talks, some workshops, and so on. So here it's more complicated. So I connect to GraphQL in a more complicated way. But here I see that this is all the data this page needs, and then after that it's React. So you see the connection, and then on the app side we do something similar. So we connect to the GraphQL interface, and then we do the app thing. But all right. But in practice, development went like this. So one of the benefits of hosting on Netlify in this case is that it actually gives me like a site per commit. I should demonstrate this because it's a cool thing. Because it's static site, okay. So I can move back in history. I can see what the site looked like in the past. I can get a preview for every pull request I get. Like, let's check it out in the past. Oh, maybe this one. Oh, yeah. Preview deploy here. Yeah, it's loading. Anyway, the site used to look like this in the past. So you get like a site per commit. You get site per pull request and so on. And this is highly useful if you want to review the work people are doing. If you want to see what's the change is going to be like, you can check out the site and you can tell that this is right, this is wrong, fix it. Okay. And yeah, present. And yeah, as I mentioned, if I get a pull request, then I get the hosted instance of the site. One thing, because I started writing GraphQL, it meant that I had to write GraphQL schema. And doing this, it gave a lot of clarity about what I'm doing, and because I needed the schema for the API. So in essence, because I have to type out my assumptions, everything became clearer, and it gave this site, the app, very like strong information architecture. Styling-wise, we are a little old school. We are using Sass, not some nice CSS and JS thing, but I mean we could do that as well. But yeah, I'll show you a video because I did the initial site. It didn't look that good. I mean, I did some things right, but it didn't look very good. So what happened? I decided I should hire Andre for 2 days. So I just went and I sit next to Andre. We did some collaboration. So in this video, you see what we achieved during those days. So first, we started with design. So we did a list of things we want to do, and then we started actually doing things. So in the first phase, we decided that the site should look like Finland. So we get these motifs, or like these ideas that are related to country. So, you know, and then we find some patterns, we start fitting it together. So we get some header that looks nice, for instance, and then we figure out how the content flows. And you see he's not using Slack too much, so we're doing something right. But yeah, it's coming along, and then we decide we want to use grid. Yeah, and then we have some design. Let's implement. So here we have the old site on the right, but because it was React, it was quite easy and fast to work with. So it was more like porting from the mockup to the actual implementation. So you see we're getting things done, and we tried some animation. In the end, it was too expensive to have the animation running all the time. So we decided to run it only on hover. So only when you have the mouse on top of the header, it's going to run the animation. So you see it's getting already better. And we got a little bit lucky because we found so-called Findland toolbox, which contains like official font of Finland and some like graphics and these kind of things. So we didn't have to do so many graphics. We could just integrate what already existed. So here it's getting nicer bit by bit. And then that was first day of work. And then on second day, we do a little bit more. So then we have to figure, because we have mobile users, of course, so, and Android didn't like less, so we went SAS because of that. So we had to tweak Webpack configuration. But yeah, anyway, now we do the mobile layout, and then we do the tablet layout as well. And it's starting to get there. Important thing, you need to get those emails. So, but this is something you can actually try. You can try to record your work. You can try to record what you're doing during the day, and then you show it to the client, and the client is, oh, we actually did some work. So it's nice to demonstrate what you're actually doing. Yeah, of course, footer needs some work. It's coming along. A little bit of tuning. It's endless amount of work. Yeah, I think it's the video is almost done, so we can get to other things. And here we go, I guess. Let's see. So that was the old site. Don't hire me as a designer. I'm not a good designer. Android does nicer designs. So here's the design we made together. So we have nicer graphics and nicer layout, and everything is more clear. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah, it was in the past. So don't come next year. Okay. So just to recap, what if content changes? A new version is published. So I use semantic release for this purpose. So it's like it's commit message based. I write a commit message, and based on the commit message, it's able to figure out should I publish a new major version or minor version or patch version. I don't have to publish myself, and that's very important because when I get a package on NPM, then there's a webhook that tells my API that compile yourself. So it's going to install the new version of content and serve it through the API. And the site, it gets notified after this. So we get this flow. And the point is that let's say I do some breaking chains. I break the schema somehow. Then the commit message tells that it's a new major version, and the API is not going to update itself, because this should be something I handle myself. Because if I do something really big, then I should go to the mobile app and the site and so on and fix those first, prepare for the change, then I update the API myself. What's missing from the site? So I thought it might be fun to make it easier to edit the content, because what I could do, because I have graphical API, I could add some introspection to the site. So let's say I know that there is this text field, and it's related to this and that data. And on the graphical API, I would have mutations. So what this enables is that I could write a Chrome plugin. I could write the plugin so that I edit some field, edit some text, and I send it to the API, and it's going to commit it to the content, and then it's going to recompile the API, and it's going to recompile the site. So I could have this complete loop. So I could have very nice user interface for editing content. So instead of having to go through GitHub or the Git repository, I could enable edits against the site itself. I could do multiple languages. The problem is that developers speak English, so I don't have to. I could do Webpack 4. I tried it. It didn't go so well, so I have to try again later. I could do a style guide, because let's say I want to do multiple conferences. Maybe I want to share some components between these conference sites. I could do PWA, but I kept it simple and just didn't do it. I could aggregate more data, because I know that speaker is from this and that place. So I could figure out, based on the place, I could do this lookup to figure out the latitude and longitude. And when I have that, I could do a map. I could do a map and show speakers on a map. I could do these kind of things. Because the GraphQL API is so that the client doesn't care where the data comes from. So it's like this one interface, and then I can do anything I want behind it. I could do something about prop types. I don't like to write those prop types, so I could get them from GraphQL as well, I think. Just to give some ideas about static sites and CMS systems. So static sites, atomic. So as you saw in the demonstration, we have a site per commit. So literally atomic. Very simple to host. It has always been like that. If you have static file host, you can put your site there. It's also easy to scale because of this. It's quite difficult to attack, because now there's not a lot of moving parts. It's friendly for developers. On CMS side, think WordPress and these kind of systems, they're dynamic. So if you need something that lives, it's a good choice. A little complex to host, because you have requirements. You need PHP and these kind of things. And the attack surface, it's larger, of course, because now you have admin interface, and someone can try to knock the door and see if they get in. But the point is that these are very friendly for users. So normally you have nice editing interface and these kind of things. And there's something in between that is called a Jamstack. So I would say what's happening right now, we are like converging somehow in the like something that's in between these both, between CMS and static sites. So we get nicer user interfaces for the end users, and in the end we get the site. Data changes, you get the new site. You don't have to worry about this developer. If you need something more complicated, there are third-party services just for this. But I guess the question is, what web development is going to look like in like 10 years? I mean, it's not that far, 2031. So how to develop sites in 2031? Well, maybe you use Alexa or Siri or whatever we have. Tell, develop a site for me. Something happens, you make money. So maybe the point is that we have to go, now it's quite complex, so maybe we have to go back to simple. And I believe that, I mean, it's like you saw, we have something that's very good for users, and we have something that's very good for developers. I think we will meet somewhere in the middle. So we will end up with systems that are very good for both. Maybe we get some artificial intelligence things. Maybe we get machines to help us to design better sites. And I mean, it's not 2018 if you don't have blockchain in presentation. And we get some machine learning things. Maybe we can generate better content. Maybe we can read site designs from our minds. Maybe we get this nice future where we sit in table and have this private, virtual reality thing. But to conclude, I think it's still, I mean, some things changed in 20 years, some things didn't. And there's a lot of value just doing static sites, because you can do so much with them. I would say both developer experience and user experience are improving. So we're bridging this gap. So we're getting more like WordPress kind of functionality in static site world. and you can do more dynamic things than you think. One personal learning for me was that it opened my eyes when I separated the content from the site, because the site design becomes simpler when you do this. And yeah, I think I have one announcement to make. I can announce something. It's like we started doing this like 2 days ago, so don't expect too much. But I think we want to do a conference around October in Finland about GraphQL. So we might see some of you there. But I don't have any concrete information. I started getting the speakers. I have like half of the speakers needed in 2 days. So it's work in progress, but I think it will be a lot of fun. I guess that's it for me, and thanks for the invite.